Hey everybody, I'm back. Let's talk about US dollar crash by January. Now, this has been predicted by the dollar crash has been predicted by many economists. People like Peter Schiff, other people that are into gold and precious metals have really often made the call for a long time now that the dollar will lose world reserve currency status and ultimately be replaced by something. Now, there's been many theories out there what that something is going to be, but the real threat to the dollar, it's not a theory, it's something that's happening right now. The Brics nations are looking to dethrone the US dollar. They're looking to establish a new world reserve currency. Now, it may not be 100% backed by gold, but there's definitely precious metal involvement in this operation. Let's call it an operation. The Brics nation, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Now we've got Saudi Arabia looking to jump onto the Brics nation system and establish a new trade and a new currency, and it's going to have precious metal involvement. Now, one of the latest economists, investors that we see here is making this prediction very soon, actually less than 3 months away. By January 2023, Robert Kiyosaki predicts imminent crash of the US dollar. Now, I've always hesitated from putting exact time frames on things because there's so much manipulation that can go on. There's so many things that can be done to prolong the inevitable. Look at what's happened so far with the housing market. People said the housing market was going to crash back in January, and now we're a couple months away from the end of 2022, and the housing market hasn't crashed. We've seen a few cities with price corrections, but there's some cities that are actually still increasing in price. So there's definitely not a housing. If you look at certain cities, there's a housing decline. I still wouldn't call it a crash, but definitely nationwide altogether, no sign of a housing crash. But let's get into Robert Kiyosaki's prediction here. And I was just bringing up the housing market because I like to put that out there as an example. Many people predicted, this year there was going to be a housing crash, and they were wrong, right? So let's talk about what Robert Kiyosaki says here. Rich Dad, Poor Dad author. We've talked about him before. Many people know. He's got a show right here on YouTube, by the way. Quote, I believe the US dollar will crash by January 2023 after the Fed pivot. And I believe it was just a couple weeks ago we talked about the Fed pivoting possibly in December because something was going to break. Will something break between now and the end of the year? Please let me know down in comments. But he thinks the Fed's going to pivot that soon because of some sort of crisis, because of some sort of a threat or some sort of event or systematic failure that occurs. Will it be a stock market crash? Will it be something else externally that comes in and causes this threat? Again, who knows? Nobody has a crystal ball. But please let me know what you think down in comments. Now, let's talk about the Brics nations. And here's something else that Kiyosaki said. Quote, bye-bye US dollar. Saudi Arabia officially joining Brics. In 1974, the US dollar became the petrodollar. A day after the troops were pulled out of Afghanistan, Saudis began negotiations with Russia and China. US dollar is toast by gold, silver, and Bitcoin is what he says. Now, I'll leave it up to you if you think those are good defenses against the failure of the US dollar, or will nothing happen? Will the Fed keep tightening, and will the US dollar still show strength because the Fed's going to continue to tighten? You see, that's the thing about this. In order to predict exactly what's going to happen, you have to be a mind reader. You have to know what these people, we're talking about the central bank, you have to know what they're going to do. Will they pivot? Won't they pivot, right? So that's the thing about economics now. Economics has turned away from fundamentals and looking at data, looking at charts, looking at valuations, and now it's about being a mind reader. Why do you think you have so many people out there waiting for the Fed meeting, and what did the Fed say? Right? So instead of looking at data and analysis and prices and charts, we're now just listening to these people like, what are they going to do? Now, let's talk about why countries are looking to trade outside of the US dollar. Well, that's because countries are coming to the realization that the dollar can be created out of thin air in infinite amounts. So imagine you have goods and products that you are manufacturing. When I say you, I'm talking about your country. You're actually manufacturing products, blood, sweat, and tears, real labor goes into manufacturing. And you have a printing press over here in this other country. They could just type up as many digits as they want to and buy whatever they want to. It's ridiculous when you think about it. But this is what the U.S. has been doing now for decades. Back in 1944, we had the Bretton Woods Agreement, where 40-something different countries came together and they established the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency. In the early to mid 70s, we had the emergence of the petrodollar, where the United States and OPEC agreed to only have oil traded in U.S. dollars. Now, with the recent events with Russia and the sanctions, we've seen a divergence from that petrodollar. And now with the Brics nations coming together like this is the biggest threat to the U.S. dollar that we've ever seen, that we have seen since the emergence of this petrodollar. Several countries are in contact with Brics, talk about the Brics nations, and have assured them that the accession issue will be discussed and a final decision will be made. If Saudi Arabia joins Brics, it would be a promotion to the Middle East countries to strengthen their ties with Brics. So this could just be another step towards the enlargement of Brics. With this Saudi Arabia, other Middle Eastern countries may follow. And this would weaken the intervention and influence of the U.S. in the area. A Beijing-based international relations expert reportedly told Global Times on Wednesday, many others share the sentiment that if Saudi Arabia joins Brics, it will be another strategic blow to American empire. Brics Plus can launch a democratic and commodity-backed global currency to challenge the U.S. dollar. Key, commodity-backed. Now, people say the U.S. dollar is backed by the commodity of oil. You can make that assertion, but it doesn't stop the fact that you can create unlimited amounts of dollars regardless of how much oil there is to back it, right? So we all know that it's a what's called a fiat currency. It used to be backed by the dollar up until the dollar used to be backed by gold up until 1971, completely detached since then. This is, what is happening. And yes, it's inevitable. I think it's inevitable that ultimately the dollar will be like the Zimbabwe currency, like the Venezuela currency. It will be wheelbarrows full of money to buy a loaf of bread. But how long until that lasts, right? The dollar is still the dominant currency. We still have about 60% of all U.S. trade being done in dollars. But that percentage is dropping. It's declining all the time. And that's why I've always said try to stack hard assets. My favorite still is silver. Some people feel like digital assets and digital currencies are the way to go because they're more easily transportable across state and country lines because you don't have to actually physically haul it. It's there in the digital realm. But this is definitely happening. The question is, how long? Will it be in our lifetimes? Yes, I definitely think it'll be in our lifetimes. Can I tell you next year, like Robert Kiyosaki predicting January? I'm not that good of a timeline predictor. I can tell you within a year or two, I think, of what's going to happen, and I've been pretty accurate on that. And I think, yes, within 2 years, you're going to see the dollar replaced or dethroned. Now, with the Fed tightening and raising interest rates, we've seen severe weakness in alternate currencies. We're talking about cryptos and even precious metals the prices have really been suppressed. I wouldn't call it a crash, but definitely prices have been suppressed. We see gold in the mid 1600s, silver bouncing between upper 18 and 1950 range on the digital price. If you look at physical, it's hard to find an ounce of silver for less than $24. There's a big difference there. But what do you think? This is what's happening right now. And are you investing for the end of the U.S. dollar, or are you all in dollars because you're waiting for deflation in the housing market and in the automobile market or whatever else it is you think there's going to be better buying opportunities in? Maybe you're holding dollars for a stock market correction, a bigger correction than we've already seen. Either way, please let me know down in the comments. Let me know what you think about Kiyosaki, about the Brics nations, and with Saudi Arabia now joining the Brics nations. And will that be expanded to more countries in the Middle East? And will the dollar be dethroned? If yes, what is your timeline? Really like to hear from you all on this because I don't think anybody knows. And I'm very interested to hear what your timelines are, what your thoughts are. Thanks everybody for watching. Bye for now. Peace.